All right. If you are interested in pretty much anything that has to do with publishing, you're going to be super interested in Kate Butler because she is a number one best-selling author, certified professional success coach, and international speaker. She's been featured on HBO, in the Huffington Post, and many other news and radio platforms. Kate's passion is intuitively coaching her clients through their own transformations and breakthroughs so they can identify their life's mission and begin living on their highest path. Her mission is to guide people to step into their light and ignite their life. But what she doesn't say in her bio is that she is a good friend of Jack Canfield's and often speaks with him in speaking events. She's got several number one best-selling books, which she did mention. She does collaborative book projects. She does her own book projects. She does all kinds of stuff to help women who are writing books get better at it and do well and be successful. Does that cover it? There's so much to tell about you.
I'm going to rewrite my bio for me.
Welcome, Kate. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
So I want to share just a little bit of like how Kate and I came to be in contact with each other. It was very serendipitously, actually. She happened to make a post in a group that we are both in together, the Boss Moms Facebook group, which is a great group for female entrepreneurs. And I think you asked questions about people who were interested in sharing their stories, their inspirational stories. I think that's what the post was about. But we connected, and through our connection, I found out that she was doing a project that I very much wanted to be a part of, and we're going to talk about. And I wound up getting involved in the project, and I have learned so much from her. She's a fantastic coach and mentor, and she walks the walk. She's done these things. She has had tremendous success in publishing, and she's got a lot of great information to share with us. So again, thank you for taking time out.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So I don't even know where to start with you. Did it start with the children's books? Did it start with an adult book? Where did you start? How did this publishing journey begin?
It did start with the children's book. And so I now do know Jack Canfield and Patty Aubrey, who's the president of his companies, very well. And Patty and I actually are partners now after 6 years. But in the beginning, so 6 years ago, I met them through actually a women's retreat that Patty was hosting, and then she introduced me to Jack later. And through the coaching process, Jack felt really strongly that, you know, a book was in my future, even though that wasn't part of my goals at the time. So it was really interesting. So through their coaching, they kind of walked me through, you know, some ideas and the process. And that's how I created my first book, actually, the pink one that you see behind me here, More Than Mud. And that's where it all began. And then the second children's book that I wrote, I actually co-wrote this with my 5-year-old daughter. It's More Than Mud. So it's
that is so cute.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so proud of this book. I usually like gloss over my first one because I'm just so proud of my daughter that I go like right to the second.
That's awesome.
She's 8 now, but she was 5 at the time when she created this story, and then she helped me like design and illustrate. She didn't do the drawings, but she helped, you know, create the ideas behind them. But the entire story is actually hers. And so I then went on to adult books. I have a guidebook behind me over here that you see, which is all success strategies combined with a journal and a calendar. So everything's all in one spot.
Nice.
And the collaboration books or anthologies that we're speaking about today as well. So I'll actually go on to publish my 7th bestseller, number 1 bestseller, knock on wood. They've all been so far. This March, yes. And somewhere in there, I snuck in co-authoring a book with Jack Canfield. So that was
just because, why not? You know, if you're going to co-author a book with somebody, go big or go home, right? And for those of you who don't know who Jack Canfield is, Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's Jack Canfield, right? Yes. What else? What other big stuff? Right.
And the Success Principles was also another big book of his. And then he did a follow-up book called Living the Success Principles. And that is the book that I was a co-author of. And so it was people that took all of these success principles and then used this proven system to completely transform their life, which is what I did, which is how I got to the first book. And then how I got, through the next 6 years of then being, asked to keynote on stage with Jack Canfield.
Right.
I keynoted on stage with Marianne Williamson. I partnered with the president of his company, Patty Aubrey, and so many beautiful things in between. But the story was just about that transformation of how I went from someone who was pretty lost in their life, and nothing was really working in any area, to be quite honest with you. Beautiful, healthy children, loved my husband, but beyond that, I was completely lost in, what life purpose was, or I had no clue what that even meant at that time. And through his success principles and his coaching, my life completely transformed, and brought me to where I am today. So that was what that book was about as well.
That's so hard to imagine, just because I've met you since you've been a very, very clear in your goals and mission in life. It's hard to imagine back before, but that's also a great testimonial to how you can figure it out and you can develop success and follow the path and do all of that stuff. So I want to talk about your books, and in full disclosure to everyone, I am a contributor to her third book, which I'm really excited about. It's going to come out at the end of March, so it will be available shortly after this conference ends, and it's just fantastic. But I wanted to talk about where it all started with Women Who Ignite. Where did this come about? How did it come about? And how did you start it off? Did you design it the same way as the third one is now, or was it completely set up differently?
So that's a great question. So with the success of the first books that I had, I mentioned that Jack Canfield was the one that was encouraging me to write a book to begin with. So he did actually go on to endorse my first children's book. His name is actually on the cover of the book, and it says endorsed by Jack Canfield. So I think that might have had a little bit to do with the book.
It helps. It helps to have friends in high places, but
I had a lot of success very quickly with the first children's books, the children's books as a whole. And then, the books that began to follow thereafter. So I had a lot of my coaching clients. So it was moms who was reading my children's books, right? Because that's who buys children's books it's generally moms.
Right.
And so moms would buy the books, read the book, and then they would contact me. And after they read the book to their child, and they would say, I know this is a children's book, but I kind of feel like I'm getting more out of this book than my kid because I'm understanding it more. And so, because it's all around the positive, it's all under the positive inspiration umbrella, and changing your thinking to have a positive perspective on life, right? And so out of that actually is how my coaching began. I started to organically coach people because people were reaching out to me as a result of the messages in my book. Mm-hmm. And so I have an extremely successful coaching business now, but it actually began very organically as a result of people inquiring about the message that I was putting out there, and the message that I was sharing through my books. And the reason that I'm stressing that and mentioning that and being detailed about that is because I really believe that is what is possible for all of us when we choose to be vulnerable and be more visible and share our message out into the world in a big way. And so when my coaching practice, started to take off, I then had a lot of people who were getting very clear on their message, and they were getting very clear on how they wanted to show up for the world. And then they were saying, oh, how do we write a book now? You've done it before, and how do we do it? And so I had all these people going in all these different directions writing these books, and I was walking them through the process, and many of them were very successful. But it also struck me how much more successful we could be if my clients, who are women, were able to come together and collaborate, right, versus be in competition with one another, and join forces, join audiences, join messages, join intention, and then come together on one project and put this out to the world. And that's how the idea for Women Who Ignite came about. I also found that there were a lot of people out there that wanted to write their story. Like these were writers, or these are people who really wanted to share their story. They had this itch inside of them, or this fire inside of them, that they wanted it to come out, but they had no desire to really get into the publishing part of it, right? And so I said, what if your only job was to really get clear and connect with your message and write your story, and I my team took care of everything else, right? Because that way you could just show up and be clear, as opposed to having the weight of everything else that you're not clear about, that you're not sure what to do, and quite frankly, you don't want to do, right? We took all that off the table. And it was really interesting how the stories got so much richer when the pressure came off. And it was just ended up being a beautiful thing. And so that's how it began. And it started with women who were talking about the moment in their life that they decided to really ignite and step onto a new path. Because I mentioned that that was a pivotal moment for me that then opened up the door for me to, walk into not just the meeting the Canfield group and all of that, but so many extraordinary changes within my life, in my marriage, in my relationships, in how present I can be in every moment, right? Just really beautiful, life-changing things. And so women were writing about this. And then in the second book, people were inquiring before the book was even published. They were like, when's your next book coming out? And I was like, oh, this is going to be a series? Oh, yeah, this is going to be a series. Okay, I didn't intend that. I just thought we were going to have one book come together and it was going to be, yay, amazing. I knew it was going to be great, but hadn't thought about this being a series. And so as people were approaching, I thought, well, why not, right? And so I decided I didn't want it to be exactly the same, but I wanted it to grow with our audience, right? And so now that we know about the moment and what that takes to really own that moment of igniting your life, so now Women Who Inspire was about people who were not just having that moment, but living that moment. And then it graduated to Women Who Influence, which is the book that you're a part of, obviously, and the book that will come out on March 27th. And this is about women who have had that moment, who are living their life of purpose, right, and inspiring others to do so. But now they are people who want to influence people in a positive way to come along with them on their journey. And then that will lead us to Women Who Impact, which is the fourth book that I'm currently enrolling authors for. And this is about women who have had that moment, who are walking the walk, people who want to influence others, but also people who want to take that full circle and truly make an impact or make a change in this world. And so that's where we are in the series.
That's awesome. How many authors have you had that have participated in more than one book? Any? Or do you like to keep it?
I'll be honest, I didn't allow that until this book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Good.
So, so not fair to the authors.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how many would have wanted to. I had a lot of inquiries after the first book, and I said, you know what? I just didn't want it to be like here's the thing. I have a huge commitment to my audience. My audience has been with me since my first children's book. And, we're going on 6 years now of people who have followed the books, followed the journey. And I commit to every person who picks up that book in the beginning of the book, and I say, this is going to be a book that's going to inspire you and it's going to light a fire inside of you. But it's not just a book. I also want this to be a resource for you that you can find everything that you need in this book to change your life in the way that you desire to, right? So sometimes that's through health and wellness. Sometimes that's through publishing their own book, right? Sometimes that's through, completely getting a mind makeover, which is, I love the publishing part, but the mind makeover piece is really my expertise, right? That's my zone of genius, right? Now, and so I have 3 that are repeats. And so it'll be interesting to see as the series develops and we're able to kind of filter more people in, as repeats down the road, how that decides to unfold. But I really wanted it to be unique and different and really rich for the audience up until the 3rd book. And then there were people that just did so many extraordinary things. I said, yes, you can come back because I have to tell your story again.
That's really good. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the way that you've organized these because well, one, to clear up some misperceptions that are out there, and I was a person with these misperceptions as well, and two, to talk about why this is such a fantastic opportunity. So if you are new to the idea of writing and you've decided, you really want to write a book and you really are super like overwhelmed now as you come to the process, I think this is a great way to get your leg in the door. And what I've been super impressed with you guys, with your team, is how, one, how professionally it just runs like a well-oiled machine, and two, how much instruction and support is happening. And that's why I think for somebody who really has a story to tell but is afraid of doing the whole thing, doesn't want to write a whole book and all of that, this is so great because we're getting publishing knowledge, and we're getting marketing knowledge, and we're getting launch knowledge, and we're getting that built in. And I mean, what a fantastic win that we're with a team that's already done 2 books that were bestsellers. So, knock on wood, as long as we do what we're supposed to, we're all going to be bestsellers at the end of this process, right? So just win, 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 win. There's a question coming for you, I promise. But so I remember very clearly a couple of years ago. So just to spill the cat, you don't get the cat out of the bed, whatever that expression is. To let the cat out of the bag, you don't get all of this excellence for free. So there is a price tag that comes along with participation. And I say that because a few years ago, somebody contacted me and said, I have this opportunity to participate in an anthology, but they want to charge me X number of dollars. And I had received a similar email saying, come be in our anthology and charge me X number of dollars. And I was like, heck no, there's no way I'm going to pay to be in part of somebody else's book. And for that project, I think it was the right answer because there was no development. There was no nothing. It was, I do the work, I submit it, end of story. But with this project, I'm proud and happy to say I've changed my mind because we're getting coaching, we're getting promotional and marketing training, we're getting all these things that I just mentioned a minute ago. So I'd like you to tell a little bit more about like what the real impact and benefits are, if I didn't just cover it all, to a writer who's coming into a process like this, and why it is such a phenomenal experience for a first time published writer.
Yes, absolutely. So, it's perfect for a first time writer. It is also perfect for someone who has put out an ebook before or a book that didn't do very well. I have a lot of people come to me to say, I did the book, but it didn't make the impact that my message needs to make, right? I still want this message out in a big way and it didn't do it the first time. So, can you help me with that? So, so for both sides of the spectrum here. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if you would agree, but many authors tell me, they're like, how come you didn't mention any of this stuff that we get? Like, when you talk about when we were talking originally, because you get into
Right.
the group, like, you get this, you get this.
Right, exactly. It's like, wow, this is well worth it.
Yeah. So, I want you to, first of all, be a part of the entire process and know about the process as much as you desire to, right? And you don't just write a book and publish a book and, throw it up on Amazon and, then expect for it to rain, right? And for everyone just to know about your book and for it to be a huge success. I mean, there's an entire system and process that goes along with that. And I desire you to know about it. If you're going to be an author, then, and you want to be successful at this, then you can take what you learn in my program and then go and do it on your own, in the future. Because a lot of people, once they become a number one best-selling author, they get the itch, right? It's like, I hear it's like getting a tattoo, even though I don't have one.
Right. You want it again.
You don't understand, Kate. Like, once you get one tattoo, you just like have to get more.
Okay.
I'm not getting one because I'd be covered, right?
Right. So we'll do the same with number one best-selling books. I like this.
Exactly. Right. So when people come in, the most important thing is coaching them, like you said, like really creating the space and helping the person create the space in their life in their physical life, in their emotional life, in their environment, in all of this, right? And creating the space to really get clear on their message. That is absolutely critical so that you can show up and write the story that your soul wants you to write, right? The tools of writing that story. We have a strategy call, right? I have a strategy call with every single author where you give me your story and then I give it back to you, and in a way, right, where I'm bringing everything together. And that's really, really my specialty. Being able to say, this is how I see your story, right? And generally when I give that back to an author, they're like, whoa, like, how did you get that from what I just said? And I said, it's just the way that I see you, right? The way that I not only see you, but the way that I see where you're going, I'm able to really make that connection and then bring your story, like around a full loop. To bring your audience there as well, right? And so getting really clear about your message and then knowing how to position yourself in the marketplace so that you can not only market your book, right, but you can market your message properly, you can market to your audience properly, and you can really show up and be visible for this the way that you need to be in order for your message to be recognized. So we take people through an entire marketing campaign, all of the ins and the outs. We give the promotional material to support along with it, which is extremely important. And then, we're giving you the pre-launch campaign and the actual launch campaign, right? The step-by-step process, the templates that go along with it. Because when you win, I win, right? I want everyone to be out there and grow from this, and I want their business to increase, and I want you to get speaking engagements with Marianne Williamson, and I want the best, whatever you want, like whatever your Marianne Williamson is, right? I want that for you.
Yeah.
So these are the ways to get there, because you don't get invited to be on stage with Marianne Williamson if you do an ebook, you throw it up on Amazon and nobody knows about it.
Right.
You're invited to the opportunity of your dreams when you're visible, but when you know how to be visible properly, right? And so that's the point of all of it, is to really set people up for success beyond the book.
Well, I love that. And I have to tell you that I have been pleasantly surprised and blown away by the amount of support. And I mean, I've published books before, so I know the spectrum, and I'm still getting like so much value and benefit because I've never done it this way before. And, I don't have the experience and the routes that you've taken and those kinds, but it's been phenomenal. And I have to say that it's really cool to be part of a process where I feel like like what you said at the very beginning, like you helped us define our message and focus on the writing, which I think is one of the hardest things when people self-publish a book, is that you get so lost in the bazillion other things that you have to do right to have your book out there, that your writing suffers from it because you've forgotten how to get into that message and be clear. So it's been really nice to be kind of coddled, basically, to say, okay, now you got to do this, now you got to do this, and here's your marketing image, go share it. It's like,
well, absolutely. Yes. And to your point, I'm able to stay in that place of helping people strategize and get clear, and I'm lifting them up constantly and helping them through. I mean, writing a book is super vulnerable, and people go through a lot of things come up, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm able to be there and really hold that container because of the team that I have. So I'm not an editor, right? But I refuse to put out a product that is anything less than exceptional, right? So we have a team of editors, and it goes through several rounds of editing so we can make sure we're putting out quality work. I have designers on my team that just create the most beautiful projects in the world that is not something that I would be able to do on my own. So, I think it's just really important. And then teaching people how to go and do that in their own business too. I think you would agree that I am constantly sprinkling in some business coaching as well as we go through, right? Because even if you're not thinking of this as a business, but a lot of people do already have established businesses when they get to me, how do we weave this in? How do we create this as a stream of residual income for you, right? These are all things we talk about in the group, because again, the more you win, the more we all win, right?
Absolutely.
All of us, but all of your co-authors,
right.
Like, we rise together, right?
And that has actually been one of the beautiful and unexpected parts of the process, as well as developing the relationships with these other women. And like, whether you're publishing a book as a group or on your own, like, this is one thing that's become really clear to me, is how important those partnerships and support networks are for that. And you've set us all up for not only great success with this book, but in the future, if any of us launch a product or a book or something like that, we already have a built-in support team network. Our launch team has already been created, because
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's a built-in audience. And I'm so glad you picked up on that about the product piece, because all of these principles apply to launching products as well as books. So
absolutely.
yeah, it's really, it's a neat thing.
So, well, I'm glad to hear that how long will you be accepting applications for the newest book?
Well, until I fill it.
All right. But it probably will not be closed by the time this runs in March, right?
It will, no, because my doors will, no, it won't be.
Okay.
I'll be opening the doors at a similar time. So, as far, I'm talking to people now who were not able to get into Women Who Influence.
Okay, great.
So I already have, I have a list of people that I've committed to go to first, because I also won't share two of the same stories in a book.
Right.
So even if someone's amazing and the perfect fit, then I unfortunately cannot offer them a spot in a book if someone already has a similar story. So
right.
I let them know that I'll be in touch with them first, for the next book. So that kind of, I will mention that this book is for people who want to be more visible.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get their message out, on a global scale. These are for people who want to use this book as, a platform. So for me, I would not have had the credibility to partner with Patty Aubrey had I not had these established credentials beforehand. I would not have the credibility to be invited, to speak at Rock Your Voice with Marianne Williamson. I wouldn't have had the credibility for all of these things, and I've been on stage with Jack multiple times, to get me to that point. So for the people who are like, well, how much money am I going to make off of this book? I'm like, this is not for you.
No.
You can make some money off of it, but I'm just not interested in getting into the semantics of all of that, because that's really not what this is.
Right.
The book will make you money for the rest of your life if you market the book, right?
Right.
But this is really about getting your message out to the right audience, about getting your message out on a global scale, because we have authors from all over the world. I think we have double-digit countries represented at this point in our project. So people are out all over the world sharing not just their message, but the messages of their co-author, which is really cool. And for people who are really interested in doing that, right? Sharing, the messages, getting out and speaking about it, being super visible. So those are the people who I would enjoy a conversation with about possibly being a co-author. And these spots will be open until I find the right people for that.
That's great.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that the link is in the notes on how people can get in touch with you about it, or if your submission is open for it at that point.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because I think it has been such a great and wonderful learning experience. And you brought up some really important points, and a lot of female entrepreneurs, the reason that they decide to write a book is to get speaking engagements, because we've all been told that to get the big ones, the paid ones and all that, you really have to have a good book behind you. So, do you have anything else to add to that on like how speaking engagements are a natural flow from this, or really anything?
You brought up such a good point. I mean, look, speaking, at the big ones are incredible. They're so awesome. I won't take anything away from that, because it's definitely, just really, really cool. But I'll tell you, I mean, even my daughter, we go and speak together at schools with the children's book.
Fun.
We speak to thousands of kids per visit. Okay. So whether that's in an auditorium setting, right? And we are up on stage talking to thousands at a time, or they're filtering in, a couple hundred at a time. We're getting our message out to thousands and thousands of children. But I also speak to children about the process of writing a book, right? Or the process of getting your message out there about positive thinking and confidence building and things like that. Even if if it's not a children's book, they still invite me in as an author. Do you see what I mean? So there's still that
Hmm.
opportunity um, for those places that you may not, um, it might not be, that big Tony Robbins stage or something like that. But and just to translate this into something that is tangible, we make thousands of dollars off of every single school visit, right? So when you walk on stage at one of these big events, it's really cool to speak with these thought leaders of our time, these fantastic people who have been on Super Soul Sunday multiple times and check,
Right.
right? But it doesn't always, and that will obviously translate into, networking and new clients and things like that. Absolutely. But there is also a ton of low hanging fruit right in your backyard. And the schools are just one simple example of that, where we're reaching a lot of people. In exchange for that, right, it's extremely lucrative for us, right? Because everything we do has an exchange, right? And that's okay that we're getting the exchange in that monetary way. And so there's so much opportunity. I could go on forever about it. But that's these are just a couple of the ways where it can easily transition into speaking.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, gosh, I could go on and on and on and just continue asking you questions all day, but we're running short on time. So I want to make sure you have an opportunity to say anything that you want to say. But one of the things I do want people to know that we haven't really talked about today that I think is really important that you do is your work on mindset. Because that's such a huge thing for writers and how we get in our minds across the board, just like the negative self-talk and all of that. So Kate's fantastic with the mindset work. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our writing audience that would be beneficial to them before we wrap up?
Sure. So that brings, you just made me think of, something that we didn't talk about was that, I do live coaching within the group
Hmm.
throughout the entire time that we go through the book process, right? So we do live, group coaching where we go on and we talk about, the real things that are going on for you during the book process, any struggles or challenges that are coming up for you, but also anything that's going on in your business that you need help with.
Hmm.
We were talking about, what is your opt-in, right? Right now in the group, and how does that correlate with the message in the book, so that we can up level everyone at the same time. Just really phenomenal things. We talk about how to overcome writer's block, right? That's kind of where we start with the mindset stuff, so we can kind of get in and see what's going on there. And we do some energy work in the group too. We're kind of weaving it all in because we are
Right.
all soulful women here that are a part of this collaboration, both the women who have come before us in the books and the women who we are currently with in the books. And what I am really proud of with every single author who has been a part of this and will continue to be, is that everything is stemmed from an intention. So when I have those strategy calls with my author, the first thing I ask is, what is your intention for your audience, right? How do you want your reader to feel after they've read your chapter? And I recommend that you write that at the top of your page as you're writing your chapter, right? So that your intention, right, for these people that are reading your story is coming out through the pages of your chapter. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of, because I think you can feel the difference in our project. I think you can feel the difference in our books, versus other, books that are out there. There's a lot of books out there on inspiration and life
Right.
purpose and finding your path. But I think these have a different energy because of all of the things that we do together throughout the time that we're in the project and as it goes out into the world.
Well, I loved watching the second book, which was Women Who Inspire, correct? Yes. I loved watching that one launch and see the energy behind it as we were getting started with our project. It was really kind of cool to be like, hey, that's going to be us in a few months. Yay. But it's been a phenomenal experience. And I'm so glad that you made your post that day and that we were able to connect and that all of this has grown from it. But we will make sure that all of your contact information is included so that people can reach out to you. And just thank you so very much for being a part of this
Thank you for inviting me. It was an honor. I always love talking to you and connecting with you, and anything that we can do to help women get their messages out into the world, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help support people, help them be more visible, help them get their message out there so that they can really just continue to live, in their soul's purpose. So
Yeah,
thank you.
it's a wonderful mission. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.